Hi, it's Gary with Successful Gardens, and it finally got cold enough that it's time to take our potted roses into the garage for the winter months. All right, now we've got the roses inside, and so we're going to do just a minimal pruning on them. As you can see, some of the branches are wild, and one of the things about holding them or storing them inside your garage or a shed is that you're still going to use that garage, and so as you walk around them over the course of the next few months, you don't want branches to keep reaching out and grabbing you and snagging you with all their thorns. So we're just going to do a small maintenance pruning on the roses, get them in shape, so then we can tuck them on an inside wall. This is an unheated shop that I'm going to be storing these roses in. And so we'll just get in. As we're looking at the shapes of the roses, I have watered them. And so you want to make sure that the pots or the roses are well watered. In fact, it wouldn't hurt to check them in about a month's time to see if you need to add any more water, and especially don't go longer than 2 months without checking them, because that's going to be really important. All right, and so like this rose, and the rose behind me here, they're trellised on an obelisk. It's a trellis or a trellising form that's placed inside the pots. And so, as I can see on like this one, I had a lot of wild canes that we didn't get them trained back in to grow inside the obelisk. It's a very possibility to see how this one is so leggy in its climbing form and shape, is that I might have to increase the size of this obelisk. But that's a project for next year. I've got 3 different roses that are growing in containers. This one over here is a shrub rose. It's a larger shrub rose, and I can trellis it, but it's just going to be really nice in that pot. And then these 2 roses, as you can see, one is really leggy and starting to climb and get its shape, and this other one isn't as aggressive, and I have these 2 growing on an arbor. But so they all need to be shaped and cut back for their winter storage. And I'll just go ahead and start doing that. One of the purposes for pruning these back is you can look at, it gives you a chance to look at the shape and condition of your roses. You can do some training by snipping the roses back and getting them down into cleaning out the inside or the interior of the rose. But here in the fall, there again, like you would on your roses that you have outside, you don't necessarily need to be so aggressive and prune those all the way down. And so you just want to make sure that they're inside the pot and are not going to be damaged. Now, in the colder climate that we are being in a zone 4, I definitely want to bring all my container roses inside. They're going to need that protection. They won't survive outside. When you're in a zone 6, container roses, you can keep them outside with minimal protection. You might want to wrap them up with a protective covering just to hold those branches in so that they don't break or have problems during the winter months. But in a zone 5, depending on where you are and what your climate, if you get a lot of snow, you definitely want to, I would suggest that you would bring them into a garage or a shed to keep them out of the weather, and especially if you have snow, and helping prevent that snow load from breaking any of the branches. So I'll just continue with these roses. Now there again with a maintenance prune, you're looking at the overall health of your canes. It's important to look at their growth. If they're healthy, you can definitely find out if you have any plugs like scale or boars in your rose canes. Those are why maintenance pruning is really beneficial for the overall health of your roses. These climbing roses are an English rose from David Austin Rose Company. They're based out of England, but these varieties are actually grown in the United States down in Tyler, Texas. But the varieties that I am growing are hardier or more cold hardy roses of the Austin line, and so they are an old-fashioned double rose, or another name reference to that is like a cabbage rose. These particular climbers I have right here are called Gertrude Jekyll, and they are a beautiful, deep pink double rose. And so as they grow and cascade over, they're just a beautiful rose to behold. Other varieties I have are growing are James Galway, and then I also have a variety called the Generous Gardener. Both the James Galway and the Generous Gardener are light pink, very subtle, but the fragrance from David Austin roses are old-fashioned, classic rose scents, and so they're just absolutely breathtaking, and also very wonderful in the fragrances that they have to offer. I've been waiting for the temperatures to change to get them cold enough, because I want them to be going dormant, if not already dormant, when I bring them in out of the weather. And so one of the ways that you can tell is the texture of the leaves. And that's also an indicator that they have plenty of moisture. Now, this particular leaf right here, it still has that leathery texture to it, so it's nice and full of moisture. And so as these are starting to get a little more further into their dormancy, so the leaves are going to fall off, and so that's going to be perfect. Now this particular rose, this rose is called Crown Princess Margareta. It's an apricot orange blend. Just the coloring on the Crown Princess Margareta is absolutely breathtaking. And looking inside of here, as I'm pruning, you can see these leaves have dried out a little more. And so this pot might have dried out a little more than what I was hoping to before I got more moisture onto it. But what gives me hope is as I'm cutting into these branches, I can see the coloring on the canes, and it's not dried out or withered. And so that's a good sign or indicator that it's just perfectly fine. Now, one thing about winter pruning is that pruning actually stimulates growth. So as I'm pruning, the plant is sending its signal down to its growing instructions saying, we gotta grow. But because it's so cold of temperature, it's getting a mixed signal, and so the cold temperatures are saying, nope, we're done for the winter. So they'll stay in dormancy. Now, one other thing, depending on how secure your shop or your garage is during the winter months, rodents, especially mice, can, if they don't have a food source and they get into your shop or your garage, I've seen a lot of damage done to roses from mice. Out in the garden, sometimes you'll get them from the other rodents, the voles and rabbits, even deer. But usually damage in your shop will come from mice. So one of the things that you'll want to use is like the bait bars. Just one cube in each of the pots is going to be fine if you have a mouse problem. All right, so now that I have all of these pruned back, ready to go, I'm going to take them from here and tuck them up against the inside wall. All right, there we are. They are tucked in on the inside wall of that shop. So now, as you can see, underneath them, I have placed some cardboard. And why I'm doing this is just to give the bottom of the pots just a little more added insulation, so they're not sitting, so the pots aren't sitting on the concrete floor. Hopefully you have found this video on winterizing roses that are in pots helpful. And as we showed you steps on how to prune them and then to store them in the garage for the winter months. Now, believe it or not, spring is just around the corner. It's about 100 days away before we will actually bring those pots back outside and start to warm them up and get them ready for the spring. If you've liked this video, please consider hitting that like button, and also make sure you have subscribed for future videos. Until next time, this is Gary with Successful Gardens, and remember, let's get growing.